Good morning, everyone. You are watching Witches of the Moon. I'm your Friday hostess, Natalie. This week's topic is magical depressions. What's magical about depression, right, folks? This time it's not my husband, it's my daughter. I'm sorry about that interruption. My daughter was out mowing the lawn and two very large dogs strode up on the lawn with collars, no tags. One of them was being very friendly, and all of a sudden he started snapping, so we don't know what's going on with that. But we put them in the garage with some water until we can figure out who in the heck they belong to and get them back to their owners, who hopefully will put tags on them the next time so people will know where they go. Anyhow, and in the meantime, I'm going to try to keep them away from my dogs, because my dogs are very curious about other animals. We've had lots of rescues, and they tend to want to be real friendly, but, apparently this one isn't so friendly. He was friendly at first. He was licking my daughter's face and trying to play with her, and then all of a sudden, rah, 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 so who knows. Anyhow, where was I? Magical depression. Okay, let's talk about magical depression. How is depression magical? Well, this topic, I'm sure everybody has discussed it from the perspective of what happens when you get into a magical slump. And this is a topic that we've talked about before, but what I want to talk about is depression from a perspective that will strengthen your magic. And I'm hoping that this will be a little bit different perspective than what other people are giving you at this point in time. For me, if you think about mental illness and art and creativity and those sorts of things, a lot of times when you read about the life histories of these artists, these sculptors, these musicians, a lot of them suffer from depression. A lot of them probably would be medicated if they were on today. And as a matter of fact, it's kind of strange, because this morning I just happened to see an article about this topic. It was published by Joey Morris. Many of you know her. She was one of the original hosts of the channel, and she does have her own private channel. She posted an article about, are we doing a disservice to our current prophets and psychics and artists by medicating all these people for depression. And here's the thing. I think that depressive periods can be highly creative and can be very inducive to your magic. All of us go through periods of time where we're very depressed. I posted a video about this on my personal channel about a year ago, because I was going through a very bad depressive slump, and it was very difficult for me to get up out of that, because I was feeling overwhelmed and crushed by everything that was going on. I didn't feel like I was getting enough time to put into my magic the way I wanted to, and into my craft and into my practice. But the fact of the matter is, depressive periods can be times of extreme creativity. It's during that time that we tend to write more or do things. Well, I do, at least. I don't know how other people do it. Maybe other people don't. But I find that this tends to be a time when I'm wanting to be more self-expressive. It's, for me, cathartic to write about things. So I find that this is a time when I tend to write a lot of my poetry, a lot of my short stories, and a lot of my writings come out of periods where I am a little more depressive. So when you are feeling in a very depressed state, that might be a very good time to tap into the energies that you need for transformation, that you need for workings that are of a more baneful nature. Now, the caution with that is you don't want to get so deep into the darkness that it overwhelms you. But I find that depressive times are also good times for doing forms of shadow work, where you're accepting things that are going on in your life as part of what's going on in the world and in your life, and a part of who you are and your magical being, and finding your way out of it through doing that. So when you find yourself in a magical depression, or when you find yourself in a depression, make that depression magical. Take that time to sit down and write about what you're feeling. Make it into a sigil. Put your feelings into a picture, and then use that magically to remove yourself from that. Witch it up, so to speak. Get yourself out of that magical slump from a place that is magical. I find that depressive times are good times for me to begin to want to create more in terms of sigils. And once I start with one, then I'll move on to something, and then I'll move on to something else, and then I'll want to sigil for something else. And after I've done that, then I've kind of moved myself beyond that magical depression. That's not to say that it's going to work for everybody, and that's not to say that you're not going to feel periods of blueness or sadness or depression that are difficult to get yourself out of. But that is one way that I do it, is I try to take those moments and make them into creative moments for myself. Either I will write and I'll keep my ideas. I may put some of those things into my book of shadows. It's times when I work on spells to dispel negativity and induce creativity. So being in a magical depression is not necessarily a bad thing. Now, where it becomes a bad thing, or at what point do you know that it's kind of gone beyond and you may need some outside help to get yourself out of that, even if it's getting outside, taking a walk, talking to a friend, calling a counselor, or talking to a professional. When you just can't seem to get yourself out of it, you're charting your time and it's been 2, 3, 4 weeks and you're just not getting any better, then it may be time to seek professional help. I'm not a counselor. My husband is a social worker, but he doesn't do counseling, but I'm kind of familiar with how it works. So that may be a sign that you may want to get that out. If you're ever having suicidal thoughts or tendencies, please, please, please go get yourself professional help. That being said, take advantage of this time. We as witches understand that our lives have cycles. We're going to have happy moments. We're going to have sad moments. We have to have, in order to have the mountains, we must have the valleys. In order to appreciate the good and the happy, you must have something to contrast it to. And so we have to learn to accept these moments of depression and sadness as times when we can tap into a very different creative source for ourselves. And I think that that's really important. So again, ways you can do that: start developing sigils, draw pictures, doodle even. I am not an artist. I'm not an artiste by any means when it comes to drawing pictures, but I do find that some of my better work comes out of these periods of time. So writing out poetry, maybe this is a good time for you to develop a new ritual to cleanse yourself of depression and negativity. Start looking into other people's spell work. I know that Lady Grave Dancer has many videos on this very topic. A lot of people do. Joey Morris talks about it in her videos. Calling upon your deity. Magically depressive times are times when it's good to reconnect yourself with the earth and with deity, and to really kind of get to know yourself. So anytime when you are magically depressed, maybe you're not feeling your spell work has got its punch or its power that it needs, or perhaps you're just depressed itself and you're needing that, use that. Turn that into the positive by using that time to really connect on a deeper level with other things. Maybe get deeper into meditation. Utilize meditation more in your practice. Get out in nature more and allow the natural energies of the earth to heal you. Walk barefoot on the earth. That really, I can't even tell you. Now, of course, you have to be cautious because there are parasites, things like that. So I don't recommend you go walking in the woods barefoot, but definitely take some time to go sit out on your lawn and put your feet against the earth and your back against a tree and absorb some of that energy and allow yourself to ground and get that depression out. Allow it, see it draining from your head and your face and your neck and your shoulders and your arms and your legs and down your hips and through your legs and down your knees and out your toes and out the bottoms of your feet into the earth, and allow the mother to absorb that and rejuvenate you and refill you with that positive light and energy. That is really, I think, one of the best ways to do it. And I think you'll find that this is a very creative time for you in your magic, if you allow it to be and if you focus on making it such. Again, if you are finding that you just cannot get yourself out of that cycle, please do seek some help. Call out a friend, try a hotline, talk to a counselor, look at your insurance, contact your insurance company, find out if they cover mental health services. This is an area that I feel very passionately about because I think it's an area where we as a society, and I do mean this as a whole, I've seen it all over the world, it's not just here in the States, that mental health is largely ignored, and that's something that we don't think we can afford to ignore. I mean, things like, you know, Columbine High School, random murders occur, and we're sitting there scratching our heads going, geez, how did this happen? Well, because we don't value our mental health. And I think that, honestly, I think social media, things like YouTube, Facebook, things like that, have increased the level of narcissism to the point that depression seems to be a catching disease. And people are, oh, you know, especially for a lot of us in the witchy community, because we are empathic, we tend to pick up on those energies more, and it's very easy to absorb that negativity and just go, oh, I just can't get through the day. And yet we're so addicted to it that we click, click, click every day. We, you know, some of us get up, and I'm guilty of this. I get up and the first thing I check is my Facebook, because that's where my news feeds are. So, you know, I'm checking my news feeds to see what's going on in the day, and it's really a nasty habit. Taking time, one of the best ways I can recommend getting yourself out of a magical slump is to just take a couple of days and disconnect, even if it's just one day. Disconnect. Timothy Roderick refers to these in his book, in his Wicca, A Year and a Day, as days of silence. Disconnect as much as you can from the electronic aspect of the world. Don't turn on your radio in your car. Don't, you know, put on a lot of rock music, things that maybe some ambient music might be all right, but I like to just cut it all. I try to just knock it all out. My phone, I set it to do not disturb, so the only notifications I get are from my family or related to my work, because that's what's on my favorites list, so that those that need to reach me can. Other than that, I cut it off. And I find that sometimes just decompressing from what's going on in the world helps me. I like to watch the news. I think it's important to know what's going on in the world around you, but there are times when I just can't handle it. It increases that. And when I'm in a magical depressive state, that's definitely one of the things that I do, is I will cut off the news. I'll cut off all of that kind of stuff, because it's something where I want to kind of renew myself and get out of that slump. And when I find that I'm just constantly connected and I'm seeing all the negative, you know, animal abuse, child abuse posts, this person was murdered, this person died, you know, this person's had this tragedy in their life, and it's just, you know, it's not that I don't want to sympathize with my friends, but it can definitely increase the amount of depressive feeling that I'm having in my magic, and it certainly takes a toll on my magic. So although I can find value in the depressive times by utilizing that to pull in and really be creative with my magic, at the same time, if it gets to a point where you're just going, like Macaulay Culkin, cut it off. Cut it off, get some help, rejuvenate, do whatever it takes, and get yourself out of that state. But don't think that just because you're in a depressive state or you're in a magical depression that your magic is over, it's done, there's no more magic in the world, life is a tragedy. Take advantage of these times to really kind of rejuvenate yourself, increase your creativity, do what you need to do to act on that magic and pull that into your magic in some ways. And again, this is really good for relief spells, transformation spells, sigil development. If you're into doing your own soaps, candles, and magical materials, taking this as a time to reconnect to self, to deity, and to the earth. I think it's very important that these times can provide us those opportunities for doing that in a way that is unique and doesn't occur when you're in a happy-dappy mood and everything is great. It's a different type of energy, and as a witch, we want to harness that. So that's my perspective on magical depressions. I don't necessarily think that they're bad things. I think it can be a good thing if it's utilized in the correct way. And I hope that I've given you guys a slightly different perspective on this topic today. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Blessed be.